In this episode, I am talking to Josh Orr, the owner of Streamline Retail. Josh is our go-to source for when our retailers need e-commerce websites, and a lot of them are needing them in today's world. But if you're not a retailer, if you don't want to learn about e-com, don't worry, because we talk about a lot on this episode. We get into some feelings. We open up, right? It's Crystal Uncorked. Josh actually has some really great exercises, questions to ask yourself if you're stuck in your business or even just life. You know, life happens, things come up, and we need a way to get out, find some clarity. So he's got some really great tips and advice there. We also do talk about some excellent e-commerce tips, as well as the future of retail. And Josh actually worked at Disney World. I am a big Disney fan. I think he had one of the coolest jobs. So you'll hear about it all today. He thankfully gave something just for my audience. If you go to streamlineretail.com/crystal, if you're a retailer, you can access some really great resources on that page for your website. So go check it out and let's dive into this episode. Hello, I'm Crystal Vilkaitis. I'm a curious, wine-loving entrepreneur who loves to learn and have open and honest conversations. Join me and my amazing guests as we talk about all sorts of relatable business and life stuff. It's my goal that you'll have fun, learn something new, and get inspired. Wine is not required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Josh Orr, welcome to Crystal Uncorked. I'm thrilled to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. Oh my gosh. So excited.
I know, me too. So I have to share, Josh sent this email like a month ago, and it said something along the lines of, I don't need anything. I'm just checking in. Do you need something? I once got an email like this. I thought it was brilliant. So I just wanted to see, do you need anything? And I was like, I replied and I'm like, okay, first of all, this is a brilliant email. I'm stealing this. And second, do you want to be a guest on the show? And you said yes. So thanks for being here.
Here I am. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about what we're drinking. We got to start there. What are you drinking?
Okay, let's not make this awkward, but I am drinking, I have a backup and here's my other one, but this is a non-alcoholic IPA from Athletic Brewing Company. It's surprising, like the whole sobriety thing's kind of in right now. I think it's kind of a trend, the whole sober curious thing. And so there's like good non-alcoholic beverages out there. But this is kind of a new thing for me, the whole non-alcoholic thing.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have to take a break. I get it, and there are a lot of great options. I actually recently just tried a non-alcoholic IPA beer, and it was so good. Like, I'm really impressed with how great things are. No longer is it Odell's or O'Doul's? What was O'Doul's?
Oh my gosh. I've never tried it, but I can only imagine.
I know, seriously. Oh my gosh. Well, I have a typical red wine. This is a 2017 cab from Burtech Family Estates, which is local. This specific one, the grapes were grown in Napa, but it's a local winery here in Encinitas that we found with some friends a few weeks ago and just loved it. And I'm actually going to do an episode of Crystal Uncorked at their vineyard, which will be super fun. Yeah, so cheers to some great drinks. It's Friday as we're filming this. Cheers.
Which, by the way, aren't you from Colorado? No.
I am from Colorado,
Oh, no, yeah. I have my New Belgium glass. I mean, obviously they're really big, but...
Yes.
And what I love about this glass is that it has their little bicycle engraved on the inside of it where like the little bubbles come from their bicycle, which I think is a... super cool thing. So if you're in a New Belgium beer, then I cannot recommend their glasses enough.
Yes, such an amazing company. So when I lived in Colorado, short detour here, I worked in Fort Collins and we did half days on Fridays. So me and my friend Beth, we worked together. We would leave. We would go right to New Belgium. Back in the day, you could do tastings without reservations. So we did a tasting. Then we would go to Odell's brewery. That's why I was like, is it O'Doul's or Odell's? Odell's was the next. And then we'd end at Fort Collins brewery for a little just a little tasting everywhere. And New Belgium, I love them all, but New Belgium is just something very special. They've got some good beers, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love that you're representing Colorado today with your glass. Okay, so let's talk about briefly how we met. I was so embarrassed because you spoke at my summit in January. By the way, you were a fan favorite. My team loved you. My retailers loved you. Yes. And when I introduced you, I said that we met at an event in September of 2019. And you're like, actually, we met
5
before
years ago.
then. I know. I felt terrible. But kind of like full circle, that event that we met at, I think it was 2015, right? Like summertime.
15, 16, 17, I don't know. What's time?
Okay, they kind of all blend together, but it was in Vegas. It was ICSC, and my mentor put on that show that we met at, and my mentor, Patricia Norrens, was on the show a few episodes ago. So very fun that I was there because of her, and that's how I met you. And you own Streamline Retail. You help these retailers sell online and build these e-commerce websites, and not just build e-com, but really help people convert, making sure that they understand that you don't just have a place here and now you get floods of traffic. You got to do other things too. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Streamline.
Yeah, I mean, you did a fantastic job. We help brick and mortar retailers that are wanting to sell online, particularly through e-commerce. And so really it's about getting the right things in place to do that. You know, there's the obvious parts of like, well, if you're going to sell online, you need a website. And not only do you need a website, you need a beautiful one. That's a part of it, but then you need one that actually is like a good salesperson that knows how to convert. And then you have the back-end operational things. You need to know how to drive traffic to it. You need to have the things in place to keep people coming back. So really, we help brick and mortar retailers put a foundation in place to start selling through e-commerce and reach people in other channels.
Yeah, which is so needed right now. And we're going to come back to this conversation a little bit in this episode because I want to go a little bit deeper there. But you are so needed, and we share some clients and they love working with you. We've heard such great things. So, like I said, we'll come back to e-com in a second, but you are a speaker. We share stages. We have a big stage that we are sharing coming up at the Retail Success Summit. I know, June 7th through the 10th. It's a virtual stage, but Josh and I totally geeked out over the fact that we are sharing the stage with Gary Vaynerchuk. Yes, you got his books back there. Yes, I know. I have mine hidden in the closet. I totally need to get those out while I'm speaking so I could be a little...
Right here.
Yes, love it. I love it. So Gary Vee is like the social media pioneer, but he also does so much more. He is a wine guy, which we love. He's also sports guy, which my boyfriend loves. Getting into the NFT side note, are you doing anything in the NFT world? Are you learning about that world?
NFT, am I learning about it? Yes, because I'm a nerd and I learn about everything. I got into crypto for a bit, which he's also really into, but
yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to listen back to this podcast and be like, Josh, you're an idiot. You need to get into that stuff. But no, I'm just not into NFTs right now. So future Josh, I'm really sorry that I'm not putting $1,000 into them because I know that I'm going to regret it. But as of right now, no.
Yeah, I know. It's something I'm starting to really enjoy. I'm dabbling. I've got some crypto stuff going, and Gary's going to do this big NFT project that I'm going to try to be a part of. But I really want to have a crypto NFT person on Crystal and Quartz. So if anybody's listening, knows someone good, let me know. But going back, so we're sharing this stage. We share a lot of stages. I'm curious. So for me, speaking is something I love doing. And however, I still can get really nervous speaking, and almost like every time. And I'm kind of nervous when I go back in person because it's been over a year. You did go back in person recently, but I have a few questions for you, which is, one, like, do you enjoy speaking? I feel like you do. You're just a natural at it, but want to hear from you. And two, do you ever get nervous?
Well, those are some good questions. So, I forever, like, I was that little kid that, like, anytime there was an audience, I was the kid that, like, jumped out and I wanted to entertain. I loved stand-up comedy as a kid, as a little kid. I was into that. I've always loved being in front of people. Uh, and yeah, so honestly, I've never really gotten nervous. And Yeah, I love it. And where I think I learned to really get comfortable. Fun fact about me, and this will relate to you. In college, I worked at Disney World, and yeah, and
Oh my
I did
gosh.
the Jungle Cruise. So the boat ride plus animals,
No.
cheesy jokes. I was cheesy joke guy, and like you do those things again and again, and this thing would happen where, like, before people get off, the boats would get backed up, like people were taking too long to get off, and you're like
Yeah.
stuck there with the audience for
Yes.
minutes having to do like improv stand-up comedy, all of which is not
Right.
approved by Disney. And
Right.
but those moments I think was where I learned to do it. So I know that's not like the most relatable thing, because I know that public speaking is something that most people can get really nervous about. For whatever reason, I just I don't think I get nervous enough, and I wish I did, because I'll probably like say stupid things or something, because I'm just like, whatever. It's 2,000 people. What do they care?
Yeah. Well, hey, but you're just a born performer, is what I'm hearing. I mean,
I just can't sing.
you enjoy performing.
I just
What's
can't
that?
sing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I would love to test that. I really like to force people to sing karaoke when we're
Hmm.
together. So, actually, speaking of Retail Success Summit, when we would go in person, we would always finish the summit with karaoke night. And that is something I so miss, being in person. Do you sing karaoke?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yes. Good. So you can't sing maybe well, but you'll still do
I
it.
do Johnny Cash, and so I don't really have to sing that much, and I have a deep voice, and so I can match that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great artist for you.
Hmm. Love
Okay,
it.
so we have to karaoke sometime at some event that we are together at. We got to make sure that that happens.
Worst case, we'll do it in Vegas.
How fun. I can't believe, I feel like I want your autograph that you were working as the Jungle Cruise person. Like, that is so cool. We always love those people. They're so funny. And I so know that time where you're like, okay, got to make stuff up. And it's just so, I love that you did that. I cannot believe that. So you lived in Florida, but where do you live now?
I'm in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't ever question the desire for a young mom to live near her mom when you have little kids. So here we are in
Right.
hot and humid Houston. If you're a Houstonian, I'm really sorry to bash in your city, but I mean, I love Texas. Texas forever. You know,
Yeah.
clear eyes, full hearts, can't
Yeah.
lose, all that. But you know,
But it's hot.
and humid. Yeah.
It's hot and humid. Yeah, no kidding. Um, okay, so I was going to say something about Houston, and now I have completely. Oh, no, about your family. How many kids do you have?
I have three, all 5 and under.
Okay.
So I sleep just so much all the
All the
time.
time,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah. Peacefully, just naps,
Just
probably.
over it, oversleep, ready
Yeah.
to not anymore.
Right, right. You're working from home, right?
Yes. Funny enough, we got rid of our offices. We moved to work from anywhere because we started to hire people outside of Houston. In fact, I'm now the only person on my team that's in Houston. I somehow got out of my lease in February of last year, which could not be more perfect
Oh my
timing to get
gosh.
out of an office lease.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And that just worked out because there was
Yeah, I
no
didn't need a
shutdowns
massive
at that
office
point.
anymore.
So, wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's been great.
I know we had an office too. And I reached out to the landlord early. I had a feeling that some stuff was going to go down, and he's like, "We haven't even thought about, like people maybe getting out of their lease." I'm like, "I think this is going to be we're going to be shut down for a bit." So thankfully, I had the best landlord who discounted our rent and then allowed me to move everything out, and then they rented it again. So we left it in like June. Yeah, which was not the case for a lot of my friends. Like they could postpone payment, but we just had a discount and then we're able to get out. So that was lucky. And then to your point, I've been able to hire people outside of California. It just opens up that talent pool, which is really nice. So, and me moving to Colorado soon, and who knows where else after that, just that freedom, that remote working. But do you find it challenging at all to work from home?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, all the time. But, I found that I had to put like rhythms in place. So like in the morning, I take a walk, like I do breakfast with the family. I kiss the kids goodbye. Then I go on a walk and I come and I listen. That's when I do podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. I still get dressed for work. Like I still wear stuff. I've never worked in my pajamas. And that's my commute, and it helps me transition my day from home to work. And then a lot of times I'll do a walk at the end of the day to kind of like turn back into dad. It's almost like the phone booth, becoming Superman and then going back to Clark Kent. Gotta do something.
Yeah, totally. That's so smart. I think that you have to. I mean, I've been working from home for a long time. In the beginning of Crystal Media, we didn't have an office. And every morning I had to get dressed, put on makeup, go down to the office, sit down, and actually pretend I was in an office. I don't do well with like the pajama thing. I don't know. There's just something about that doesn't work for me. Some people totally does, but it's probably a little challenging. Like, are your kids pretty good with like dad's in the office, or are they constantly trying to see you?
Oh, no, they're great. Yeah, they're surprisingly great. I mean, the door's locked all day long. Maybe they just tried and failed and they quit trying since then. But sometimes it's cute. My little daughter will come and, knock, Daddy. It's really sweet. So sometimes I really like it. But by and large, I'm able to work like I need to. So very blessed in that sense.
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to working from home. That's for sure. Now, okay, so this past year, has it been like the busiest year you've ever had?
Work-wise?
Work-wise,
yeah. Yeah, we've been busy. It's been a good year, which if I'm honest, like it's not lost on me that I know, we work in retail, we work with brick and mortar stores. And so, I do strategy sessions all day, a lot. And so I'm talking to people all day who are really struggling. And so really like there's some guilt around it, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's been a really busy year. I'm also really grateful. Like I used to travel a lot. And to be back home and realizing like, I don't want to ever go back to that. Like I love being here and, I miss the airport lounges, but I don't miss flying. I don't miss hotels or any of that. So yeah.
I know. I'm curious to see. I got my first in-person gig booked, which will be in August in Vegas. I honestly am like, put me on airplanes, let me sleep in hotels. I'm ready. Like, I love being on the road, and I feel like I do some of my best work on airplanes. So, and it's good for me and Dustin. Like, we like space. We're two very independent people. So the fact that we've been together like nonstop has been challenging. We're fine, but he's like, aren't you supposed to leave now? Like, is anybody booking you? So I'm ready to go. But like, there was this moment of, it was really nice to just kind of be grounded for a while and slow down. That really happened for a lot of people. I ask you if you were busy because as we kind of opened up with talking about e-commerce, I've never seen so many retailers try to now sell online because their doors were closed. And so they needed a way to still reach people. And there was like a 2-month period where we demoed building e-commerce websites. I don't know if you remember this, but like, yeah, And I don't know if I shared this with you. I've not shared this with many people, but we are uncorked, and so we're open and honest on this show. I'm not kidding, Josh. I have a feeling I did not share this to you. There was a time I had a meeting with a client who I was building her website. So we offered to build Shopify websites for retailers. I had 5 clients like that. It was fast. It was easy to sell because people needed it. And I also did it at a really low price point. So because we were beta testing it, so I was about to get on a call with somebody and I realized I completely messed up her theme, and because it didn't have the right navigation, and for her product categories, we had to then move to another one. And I was crying on my bathroom floor. I was so stressed out. I was like, what have I gotten myself into? Oh my gosh, this is so many moving pieces. It's a lot of work to launch an e-commerce website. Tools, sites like Shopify make it easier, but I was in over my head. And thankfully, we built everybody good websites, handed them over. It was a great learning experience to say, this is not what Crystal Media does. And then we were like, Josh, can we please send you clients? Because I don't want to cry on the bathroom floor anymore. But from an e-com perspective, so what are you seeing right now in the world? So more people are coming to you. They're building e-com. I kind of want just like a peek behind the curtain of your world of what's happening from, it could either be consumer behaviors that you're seeing. Obviously, more people are buying online, or like tips you would have for somebody who's thinking about it, or I kind of want it to be open-ended. You're the expert. Share with us.
Yeah, gosh, you're kind of giving like hey, here's just a lob, like just hit at whatever you want. Yep. You're going to hit something, which I appreciate. Yes. I appreciate that question. That's good. So as far as our business is concerned, we went from launching a ton of new sites. And that was almost all of our work was like helping people get online for the first time. And I think our client has shifted to a lot of people that rushed to get online in April, May, June of last year. And they got sales quickly, and then their sales fell off. And so now they're like, oh, well, I see why e-commerce is important. What's the deal here? And so people are coming into our program because they're like, okay, well, what did we do wrong? And the experience you talk about, I think a lot of retailers could probably relate to. And it's because where Shopify can go so wrong is because the tool is really easy, you think that it's about a software. Like if I just understand software, then I can do it. And honestly, that's like thinking that if you can understand how to make a phone call, you're going to be able to pick up and make a sales phone call. Like just because you can make a sales phone call doesn't mean that the person on the other end of that line is going to respond to you. It's the same thing. You can get all the things in place on your website, but if you don't focus on the right things, it's not going to land. And so,
right.
As far as like the things, because I know some of you that are listening aren't necessarily retailers, but I know some of you are and you want some tips. So the high level here, first off, don't obsess over bells and whistles. Don't get caught up in like what the bee's knees website has. Honestly, like focus on what is essential. What is essential to have? Second, focus on your customer. Who are they? Know who they are. You may in your storefront be able to get by not knowing your perfect customer because you're really friendly, you're good at customer service. Online, people are going to land there and they're immediately going to say, this is for me or this isn't. And they're going to click back if it's not. Know who your customer is and have imagery and copy and that sort of thing that they connect with instantly. And I think if you start there and once you know who they are, you can think, like, well, how do I help them? Well, it's the questions that I ask. It's this, it's that. We'll build things online in a similar way. If you're a clothing store and someone walks in and they're like, hey, I'm looking for a dress. You don't immediately say, oh, here's 4 dresses, try them on. You say, oh, what for? Well, why in your navigation would you not have the ability to shop by dresses by style that you may typically do, but also by occasion? Because that's the kind of question you're asking in store. So honestly, don't try to get ninja. Just focus on what's important, focus on who your customer is, and then how do you serve them? if you go there, whether you're DIYing it or you're working with someone like us who can help, I don't think you're going to go wrong.
Right. Great tips. Excellent tips. It makes me think about, and I saw you post about this on your Instagram today about buying shirts from a Facebook ad. Mm-hmm. Is that the shirt?
It is. I wear it this or one like it almost every day.
Okay. I love just simplicity. You kept seeing this Facebook ad and then you finally bought one and then you loved it and then you bought many more. So I have bought stuff off of Instagram. I have bought stuff. I'm more of an Instagram user than a Facebook user. But what will happen is I see the product. They know who they're targeting. They've got the right messaging. I click over and it's easy. It's simple to find the product, to purchase the product, to check out. And I mean, it's painless. And I love, it's not about all the bells and whistles, people. Like they want that product. They want easy, and just really communicating to your perfect customer is what you got to do.
Exactly.
Great tips. That way we don't have retailers crying on the bathroom floor with their website, right? Like,
yeah, don't cry.
You don't need all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, be crying because you don't know how you're going to fulfill all the orders, not because you don't know how to put a freaking website together.
Yes, I love that. So true. Okay, now speaking of your Instagram account, I hope people go follow you, your Retail Josh. Mm-hmm. And I just love, because you'll be very just like honest and kind of vulnerable and share stuff. And it's not all about like e-com tips. You're really a human. And I think that you use social well. You had a post a few weeks ago about imposter syndrome, and I feel like a lot of people were engaging with that. Mm-hmm. I think I did. I can relate to that. But will you share a little bit about imposter syndrome and how that shows up for you in your life?
Yeah. So, gosh, really, let's get personal here. Why is this non-alcoholic?
We're uncorked.
I drink.
You made normally. The wrong choice, Josh.
I drink normally. Now I need to, because we're going to start talking feelings. And I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. We don't do feelings. Anyway, no. So, I mean, imposter syndrome is this idea of, well, I'm sharing this for your listeners, is this idea of you get somewhere and you accomplish something, and then you're like, oh, but what if people find out that like this isn't real, or you even just are like, but it's not. This is too good to be true. It's a fluke. As soon as people figure out, they're going to be out. And there was just this week that we had a few difficult clients. We had just a lot going on, and I was stressed, and it was a really, really hard week. I wasn't sleeping well. All of it just sucked, and I. Like a few years ago, I would say that I wasn't proud of how I ran my business. I was a terrible boss. I was stressed out all the time. Just wasn't focused on the right thing. I was like always running around with a million problems. And for a little bit, I kind of felt like that. And in that moment, because I felt like I used to, then there was this moment of like, did I even grow? What if my team figures out that that I actually am this terrible boss, and they've just gotten lucky for a few months, and all these ideas of like, okay, have I grown as much as I thought I have? And I was jumping to no. So I think that's something that, especially like if you're into the Enneagram as a 3, I think that's something that I'm going to be prone to, is doing that. And so what I have found to be really helpful is a lot of times I'll take it to like pen and paper. And so, like, actually yesterday I had some stuff go on, and I could even show you. It's really right in front of me. I wrote down like, okay, here's everything I'm feeling like that is crappy. Here's everything that sucks. Here's everything I'm telling myself. Just put it on paper, and I don't filter. So I'm just like, hey, I'm an asshole to my team. Oh yeah, I wrote I'm an asshole to my team. But then, okay, what do I know to be true? Well, I know that a year ago I would have done this, but instead I actually did this. That shows some growth. Hey, I just know I had my second best sales month after not having a speaking engagement for the last 45 days, like all these things. And so then it kind of helped bring me out of that. It's like, as soon as you bring that stuff to light and you put it on paper, like just pulling anything out of darkness, I feel like is always going to help. Put it on paper, get it in writing, And typically you're going to find like you're not as bad off as you think you are. I think the more it stays in here, the more it's just going to fester and grow. So get it out.
Absolutely. Here's what I know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Looking through things through that lens really changes the perspective. Because, yeah, our mind is powerful. It wants to fuck with us. It wants to just make us paranoid or go back to, oh, you're doing old things. You haven't changed. I call this head trash. Like, we have so much head trash. And not all the time, but especially like to your point, I wasn't sleeping well. Like when all these things start adding up, it's really hard to know what's true. So if you take a moment to just brain dump everything and then look through that lens, I love that. I am totally going to start doing that because I face that as well. And what I find, for me, like the more I think about stuff, it just gets worse and worse. Like I just really need to get it down, think of it differently, and then move on, like get into action. And also like I think about this too. You're so right. I think the Enneagram 3, if nobody's heard of that, it's a test that how would you explain Enneagram?
The Enneagram is a personality, like it's really one of the original ones in like popular culture, but it's through these numbers 1 through 9, and it's every number represents a core function, but then like a core driver, a core fear. What's your tendency going to be? And it can go shockingly deep. So I'm really into it because it's been helpful. It's helped my marriage. It's helped me as a leader, but I also want to lean on it as a crutch. 3s are the achievers. We're the ones that want to be seen as really successful, and we tend to not be in touch with our feelings, but we feel deeply, which is real weird. But that's for another day.
Right. When you are having alcohol, maybe we'll go there.
Hey, can I share one thing? Because one thing I really liked about this, and this was something I got from Tony Robbins, was two other things that are helpful to do. It's two sides of the same coin. Whenever you're feeling that way, one is run to the worst case. Like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, well, it's this. Okay, then what? Then what would you do? Okay, cool. You just like let yourself just go there and acknowledge like, okay, this is the worst that could happen and probably isn't that bad. But the other one is like, if I get really stuck in a rut, is I say to myself like, okay, well, what would I do if this thing was gone? Like if I could turn it into a soccer ball and just kick it all the way across the city, what would I then do? What would my next action be? And it's like, as soon as sometimes you remove whatever that is, and then you're like, okay, well, I would probably, do this, but I can't because of it. Okay, well, what if that was gone? And it helps kind of clear out that and move to next steps that are really healthy.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love both of those. I think that in that soccer ball example, we will hang on to that problem because it creates safety sometimes too and comfortability. And if we do remove it, it can expose new things to really help us move through and push through. But it can be challenging without getting that thing out of the way. And to your point of, well, what's the worst that can happen? When I first started a company, like back in the day when I lived in Colorado, I quit my job and I started a business managing social media called 3 Elements. And I was really scared because I was like 23 years old and I did not know how I was going to pay my bills. I didn't really have anything in savings. I asked my dad for a $2,000 loan. I drafted loan papers, had him sign it, 10% interest. I'm like, when are you going to make 10%? Like this will be a great opportunity for you. So he invested and I took my investor out for dinner at the Olive Garden. And I was very official, but I was scared. I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. And I went out to beers with my friend Greg and he said, what's the worst that can happen? And I said, I'm going to have to go work at Chili's again and move in with my dad. And he's like, is that manageable? Can you do that? And I was like, yeah, totally. I loved my job at Chili's. And he's like, all right, so then what's the big deal? And I'm like, whoa, it blew my mind. It was like, oh, I am going to be okay because I can deal with the worst case scenario. And sometimes it's not, it's a lot worse, right? So, but it makes you think differently and ask better questions. So, thanks for sharing that, Josh. And thanks for just being honest and open about feelings of like, oh, I was a bad leader. Am I doing that again? Like that can be hard for people to say. I definitely struggle with that. Like I will be the first to say I'm a terrible manager. And when I did have to manage, I made some really poor choices. And I did hire my best friend. I fired my best friend. And there's a lot I did wrong in that situation. And thankfully we're still friends to this day. It took a lot of work, but I really had to like swallow that pill and not everybody will, right? Like not everybody will do that work and change. So thanks for just being open.
Of course.
Because that's what we do here on Crystal Uncorked. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about independent retail, the industry. What do you think the future is? There's so much talk about what's going to happen to retailers and what has happened. There has been a lot of change. There has been a lot of hardship and sad businesses closing. There has also been some really great things that have come out of the past year. So what is your take on the future of independent retail?
Yeah, I'm optimistic about the future of retail. I think, and if you've ever heard me speak anywhere, you've heard this framework before. The thing that I'm really big on is you have to go from being a store and a store that has a website and social channels or whatever to being a brand, and a brand that has a store experience and a brand that has an online experience and a social media experience. And no matter where people meet you, they're having the same feeling, the same experience. Just like, you love Disney. Well, you don't have the Disneyland experience by pictures of it. You have it by going. But you can feel some similar things by watching Frozen. You can get some of that same feeling. It's just a different channel. And I really believe that brick and mortar retailers are going to have to adapt. And if they don't, that's where I get nervous about the future of retail. And I realize that can be hard because there's technology involved, and it can feel like a totally different skill set. Although I think if we get creative, it doesn't have to be. Like you've learned how to buy and how to serve your customer really well. Just learn how to do that in a different way. So you can transfer the same skill set to a different area, but where I would say like, hey, I'm kind of nervous here is, like let's say you had 100 customers. Well, in the pandemic, if 50 of them were buying online before, but most of the time they came and visited you. Well, now there's but in that group of 50, 1 in 10 times they didn't buy from you, they bought online. That group of 50 now moved to 80, and that 1 in 10 moved to 6 in 10. And even if you have an audience that you don't think shops online, that same thing happened. It may not be 50, but it may go from 10 to 20. But every year, it's just going to keep getting more and more. And people, we move forward 10 years in people's comfort shopping online, shopping through social, whether it be through live selling, e-commerce, heck, just the buy button on Instagram. It doesn't matter which one of those it was. People got more comfortable with it. And if so, we either adapt, and it doesn't look the same for everyone. This is not me saying go launch an e-commerce site. Although I believe in that, and I think that's the answer for most of you, it's not going to be for all of you, but it is going to have to turn into something else. So that's the negative side of the coin. Not even the negative, but like get your shit together and just do something. On the other side, like, gosh, where I'm hopeful is it was cool to see people really come around retailers in their community and go back to independent retail. And I think we're seeing, in a way, like this move towards independent businesses. Some of it's direct to consumer through smaller brands, but independent retailers are on the rise. And I love seeing that. So like big box, you're on your own. You're not my deal. But smaller retailers, the ones that are doing it, they're crushing it. And I think that the ones that are learning from that have an awesome opportunity.
Completely agree. I think that something we saw to this too is just the need for community, because we were all just in our homes for a few months, and that lack of that community, and our retailers really struggled with it because they love their customers, right? Like they just love when they come into the store and get to see them in person, and their customers love that too. And in-person shopping is so about the experience, and it's a hobby for some. Like, so now that that's coming back, it's great. But to your point, like people still want to be able to buy online, like those convenient things. Oh, I see an ad for some top that I have to have for some polo shirt that I love. Like I'll buy it real quick. That's easy. If you can show up in that way, but then still be there for your community and leverage online. Like one thing I loved seeing was all these retailers do more of the live selling and live streaming, and how successful it was for them. Like for just people tuning in and buying right there. And our retailers were shocked. Like you could almost tell that some of them heard me talking about live streaming and live selling, but they didn't feel comfortable. Like a lot of people don't feel comfortable being in front of the camera. We're fine. We're performers. We like doing it, but not everybody does. And so they took a risk and they tried it, and their community showed up. Their customers showed up, and some of these people are just, it's a channel for them now. It's really exciting. And when you have that e-com aspect, because of course people can call and order product or come in and pick up, but if it's all done online, it's going to make the retailer's life a lot easier.
100% agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think that in-person shopping is going away?
Oh gosh, no. It's just where it was primary. I think now it's just going to be like it's going to be just another one of the opportunities. So if I shop like where I may have been like, oh yeah, I prefer store, but I sometimes buy online. It's like, yes, I shop, and it's almost implied that it's half online, half in store. It's going to become one and the same. It's like asking me if I like watching San Antonio Spurs basketball. Yes, I like watching it on TV, and I like watching it in person. I don't even separate the two in my mind. Like they're just one and the same, but they aren't, right? Like they're totally two different experiences. Totally. I think shopping is going to be the same thing.
That is a fantastic way to put it.
You know what's funny? I joke that I have one true talent, and it's analogies. Like that's the only thing in life that I'm actually good at, is coming up with analogies on the spot.
Oh, Josh, no, it really is a talent. And so much so that after my Insider Summit, my whole team was like, we love Josh. He was amazing. His analogies were spot on. Like it just, they called that out, and it makes for a great teacher because you really help people understand. Like,
and the problem is I don't plan them. Like, so I come up with them in the moment, and most of the time they're good, but sometimes I'll say one. And I'll be talking to people, and I'll look at an audience, but when it was in person, I could just see like, and I'm like, shit, this is not landing like I thought it would. No. And come to find out, it's because I was like a very detailed, like, like on the 1998 Spurs team when you had David Robinson, and like why are we talking about this? Yeah.
Exactly. No, but I will say, like, you really do have a talent for it. I do not at all. I can't, it's ridiculous. I will be like, and the red, but also what if in that, but then what is that one name for that thing? Like, I just can't. It comes
together and it makes purple. Like,
okay. Yeah. Oh my God. It's so funny. Okay. So you and I are big fans of podcasts, and you have a podcast. You actually were somebody in my sphere of influence of starting a podcast, because when we met in September 2019, I was telling you I really want a podcast, and you're like, just do it. You were just so like supportive and open, and gave me some tips. And It took me a little bit longer to start it, but I really appreciate you just being supportive. And okay, so your name of your podcast, it's just Streamline Retail,
No,
right?
it's Retail Initiative, which we're on like a little hiatus right
Retail.
now, but I'm very
Okay.
excited to pick that back up very, very soon. I love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and that's the great thing about podcasting too, is you can kind of have seasons and things like that. Like people can subscribe and then get notifications when a new episode is live. So that's always fun. What podcasts are you or books are you listening to and loving that you've been listening to over the past 30 days?
Gosh, so podcast, I haven't been doing a lot of podcasts. The one that I listen to consistently is called The Daily Mindset Medicine from a guy named Taylor Welch. They're really short, little like 5-minute podcasts. I do a lot of audiobooks. So as cheesy as it is, like I love personal development. And I'm like all the time. It drives my wife crazy because it's all those old guys from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they have weird voices and they have like nuances to the way they speak. So, I listen to a lot of Jim Rohn. He was the guy who mentored Tony Robbins. So I have like all of his stuff, and I just like cycle through every morning listening to his pieces.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I've been reading a really, really, really good book that I would recommend for everyone called Essentialism. It's by a guy named, I think, Greg McKeown is his name. But it's basically about like cutting away all the noise and only focusing on what is essential. So like in my world, like on e-commerce, it's bells and whistles and it's this little touches on site. And it's like, you know what? Like there are hideous sites that are doing $10 million a year. Why? Because they are doing the things that are essential. And if I made a list of 10 things you have to have, there's a really complicated way of doing it. And then there is just doing it, getting it done. And sometimes you just need to focus on what's essential. So, but this is more about, not about your e-commerce site. The book's about your life in general and cutting out noise, not, saying no to things. Someone wants a meeting, you don't have to always say yes. You can say no. You can protect your schedule. It's your schedule, your time. Protect it. Can't ever get it back. So it's been really healthy or really helpful for me to learn to do it because I think I'm one that want to do everything and realizing typically I have like, as Tim Ferriss talks about, like his thing is like, hey, I just cut it all away and I have to think about like, what's the one big domino? The one big thing that if I did this, all this other stuff's just going to go away and be fine. Well, what if I could figure out like what's that 1-2 things that I need to focus on, that I need to do? And if I can do that really well, the rest of it's just going to be fine. So that's been good.
Love it. I have Essentialism on my audio book, whatever you call it. I'm drawing a blank on Amazon Audio on my phone. But I need to listen to it since it sounds exactly like a perfect thing for me to listen to right now. I have been craving not having email. Like there's just something that I'm like, oh, if I could just really check email twice a week, I would be so happy. And then I start asking, well, then why don't you? Like, what does that look like? On the days that I can't, I was thinking check Tuesday, Friday. On the days that I don't, have an autoresponder to my team. If it's urgent, it's easy to access. But it's funny you bring up Tim Ferriss because his whole 4-hour work week, and he talks about email and how we're like on everybody else's agenda when we're going through email. So that's something for me that it's like, I feel like I'm in a period of my life of wanting simplicity and trying to scale back as much as I can. So that might be a good book for me. What is your favorite go-to, most active on social media platform?
For posting, it's Instagram. I could do Instagram all day long. I love it. For like personal consumption, it's probably either Instagram or Twitter. I'm a political junkie, so I love my Twitter feed, but I don't really contribute a lot to the Twitter world. I do on the Instagram side. I think I soon want to go on a social fast, like a thing like where I have to like earn minutes. Like I have to produce as like if I want a minute on Instagram, I need to produce a minute of content. And because I honestly, like the people I know that have massive followings and all of that, honestly, aren't really big consumers of it. And so I kind of want to pull back some.
So going back to simplicity, I agree because for me it's TikTok. I can spend easily an hour on TikTok and I don't even realize an hour went by. People are just so creative and I learn so much, and then the algorithm's just like really learning me, so it's really now I'm getting every other TikTok is about crypto, but I'm obsessed. I like want to know everything there is about crypto. And so but then an hour goes by, and I'm like, I totally could have, because, especially with Crystal Uncorked, I would love to get this show out there. I really love doing it. And one thing that I think could help is doing daily TikToks, or 3 times or 5 times a day, which it sounds crazy town USA. But as I study people on TikTok, the ones that are growing fast produce content 3 to 5 times a day.
Crazy.
And so it's crazy, right? But instead of me spending an hour learning about crypto on TikTok and watching some fun dances of people, like I could be creating my own content. So I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm in that same boat too.
Hey, I have a question.
But I like that.
I have a question for you. Here we go.
Okay.
What is something that is embarrassing that you get ads for that you're like, why? How do you know this about me? Or why am I getting an ad for this, but it's strangely true? Or maybe like even the suggested articles or something like that. What's that embarrassing thing?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question.
We're an uncorked episode, so I'm asking an uncorked question.
I know. You know what's so funny? I was like, I feel like Josh is going to interview me on this episode. Like I felt like you were going to have a question for me. And
you
I
have
was
a dominant personality, and I will take over. But I've learned to like
it's
sit
my
back
show.
and let you ask very, very good questions. I've loved being here.
It's Josh Uncorked.
Crystal Uncorked. Follow, rate, comment.
Right. Okay, this is a really hard question. I want to say, and then it's like I bought it, but but I don't know if it's weird. But I was like fake stick-on gel nails were just like coming. It kept coming to me, and at first I'm like, I'm never gonna buy this, and then I started being like, maybe I would buy that. And then I was like, oh my God, that seems so easy and cute and would be fun for summer. And it's like you were saying in your post, it hit me and hit me and hit me. And I probably bought on like the 7th time. It's not like a weird thing that targeted me though. I'm totally in the market, the age demographic for getting gel nails. But if I think of something wild, or if I see a wild thing, I will tag you. I want to know this from you too, but I'll share this with you this weekend. Like 8 years ago on Facebook, I did get really weird Facebook ads to where I started taking screenshots of them, about like talking about like dead babies and talking about like
That's weird.
being arrested or something, like really weird stuff with really weird pictures of people. So I started creating an album, and I'll put it on Crystal and Cork too so everybody can see it. But that would have been the weirdest thing, but that was like 8 years ago.
Changed, so. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's definitely changed, thankfully. What's the weirdest thing for you?
I don't know if this is weird. I get on Facebook and Twitter and all of those, when you get like it's maybe not a sponsored ad, but it's like the suggested things, like them trying to keep you in. For me, it's always like revenge, or like, this person caught this person cheating, or you'll never believe what Wendy's did on Twitter. Like, it's always something about someone getting revenge. And every time I'm like, what did they do on Twitter? And I'll go, like, every single time. They know me so well. And I think because I naturally have a very petty personality, and I've like have to push that down. Like, it's like for a while, like if someone would unsubscribe from my list and I knew and like flag it as spam, and I knew that they had subscribed, I would go sign up for their list and flag it as spam just on principle. And I've learned to not do that. If you did that to me, I'm really sorry. If I did that to you, I'm really sorry to flag because that hurts a small business when you do that. I don't know if you realize.
Right. Don't flag. You can unsubscribe.
Unless they
but,
straight up are spamming you, in which case, go for it. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Josh, revenge. Okay, I took a sip of my wine right when you said that. All my podcast audio listeners, I had to really control myself to not spit out my wine. I was not expecting you to say that. That is so funny. Oh my God, what a good question. Josh, this has been amazing. I am still amateur, so I'm looking at my notes. My last question for you is really just open-ended of what advice or inspiration, which you've given my audience so much already. But if you have anything additional to share as we close up here.
I like that question. It's open-ended. So I'm not going to go retail based because that's what I always have to do, because that's all I talk about is retail and brick and mortar growing online. Focus on growing yourself. And what I mean by that, and this is for better and for worse, like you are where you are because you are who you are, and you have the abilities that you have, but you only have the abilities that you have and the mindset you have and the philosophy you have. And if you have these other goals that are higher, you have to become the person that can do that. And the way to get there, part of it is to work on yourself. And whatever that thing is that's going to help you grow, whether that's personal development or books or podcasts or whatever, dive in and work at growing yourself, because chances are, like, the decisions that got you to A aren't going to be the things that get you to B. And so that would be my encouragement, is wherever you are in your journey, whatever you are trying to accomplish, always work to grow yourself. Make sure that you are not just asking questions, because everyone can ask questions, but that you're asking the right questions, and even question yourself. Like, am I asking the right ones, or am I getting caught up in the wrong things? Whatever that could be. So that's where I would leave you. If you are at all curious about connecting with us, if you're a brick and mortar retailer, do want to grow, you can actually, you know what? Here's what I would love to do. If you're a brick and mortar retailer and you want some free resources, we have some stuff that we can throw together. You can get that at streamlineretail.com/crystal. So that's streamlineretail.com/crystal. We'll have some like email templates, some Canva templates for your, like, the big image at the top of your site, all that sort of thing. I'd love to connect with you. And then my shameless plug, follow me on Instagram at RetailJosh. If you do anything, let me know, and shoot me a DM and let me know that you found me on this podcast, because I'd love to say hello and know who you are, and say hi.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, you got to follow Josh. I'm, like I said earlier, I just love your content and how open and real and human you are. Thank you so much for giving some free resources to my people. I so appreciate that. And I appreciate you being on an episode of Crystal Uncorked. It truly means the world. Thank you for opening up and sharing your wisdom. And I can't wait to share the virtual stage with you and Gary V in just a few weeks. We'll link to that too if you're a retailer. All the links are going to be on the show notes and on the site, so go check it out. Josh, this was so much fun. Cheers one last time.
Empty glass.
Thank you for being here.
Break from alcohol. I drink
go.
fast. So,
yeah.
All right. Cheers. So glad to be here.
Cheers. All right. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next See You. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Are you on Instagram? I'd love to see pictures of you listening to the show, a screenshot of your favorite episode, and/or your favorite wines. Share them with me. Just follow and tag at Crystal Uncorked. I can't wait to see you there. All right, I'll see you on the next See You.